Hello.
I'm actually really excited to just hang with you.
Yay. Just so you know, we are being recorded.
Oh, I was not gonna say anything bad about
I know you weren't.
Canada.
Sometimes this does go on the website unedited, so I always like to just point that out. It usually gets edited, but on the occasion it does not. What are you eating?
Um, I was so hungry today, so I made myself a little snack. I'm like, I am just gonna go on this project RE call and be so hungry. I
Uh,
can't. Oh, yeah, I forgot this is being recorded. I was gonna say something inappropriate, but I will not.
don't. Great.
I'm gonna get, no, 1 second.
Well, I'm having a smoothie as
Oh,
my.
perfect. How are you?
I'm okay. I just got back from taking Abilene to the doctor. I think she has the flu.
Oh my God, Shannon, it's like you guys can't catch a break.
Seriously. Yeah, so I'm waiting for a phone call from them because she's 13, so they can't email it to me. Um,
Oh,
they have to call. So if I just randomly like go on mute for a second, it's because I have to answer and like find out if she has the flu or not.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can keep the crowd talking away. Don't
Yes,
worry.
you will. Okay, so did you have a presentation that you're gonna do, or do you want me to just interview you?
Oh my gosh, no. Please just interview me
Yep,
because
you got it.
running around like a crazy person. I am starting with a new brokerage
You are
tomorrow.
not busy. What are you talking about? Ooh, a new brokerage. That's news.
Did I tell you that I was gonna go into luxury selling?
What? No.
Yeah, it's
That's
also
exciting.
James and Wills.
Cool. What's the brokerage?
Real residential.
Mm-hmm.
And their Seattle office is right by you. It's right next to the U Village.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I'm excited.
That is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll just interview you. Do you know what I was talking about in my email when I said the calculation?
I
The
have the calculator, yeah, and I'm gonna pull it up. I can.
So what we were like at a dinner or something, and I remember hearing you telling people, "Hey, this is my like shorthand math. If I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
just really short, do I want to know if this might fit?" And
Oh,
you told them that calculation of whatever you were like, multiply it by this. I don't remember what it was. And they
I
were
know.
like, "Wow, that was so cool." Like they really enjoyed that. So
Yes. Yeah,
if
I
you
can
pull
totally
that
do
out,
that. I
that
do
was
it every day. I did it today like 5 times. So yes, I'm in.
you're
I,
like, yes, I can do this upside down. I'm fine.
yeah.
Okay. I'll let people in just a second.
So yeah, how many people typically showed up to these things?
It's just, it is what it is. Yep. It's random. Sometimes there's 10, sometimes there's 50. You never know. How many people have the flu? We never know. And so it's that time of year.
It's that time of year. I know. It's like real estate at work. You never know. Like
You
that
never know.
happen. Yeah.
You never can tell until it's time.
Yeah.
I see at least 5 in the waiting room, which I'll let in 1 second. Well, I'm excited. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll intro you. Well, we'll just kind of chat for a minute while people join because it takes like I like to give like at least 5 minutes before we really start anything of substance. So we'll just say hi to people and chat, and then I will introduce you. I'll give you a minute to just talk in general, and then I'll kind of shoot questions at you. And then I'll take audience questions towards the end. But if anybody raises their hand, obviously I'll let them jump in.
Yeah. Yeah. We can make this as interactive as they want it to be. It's not like I have to prep for questions. So yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm gonna let them in.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Just adding everybody in here.
Is that Aubrey from the show?
I can't see.
Yes, it's me.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi.
oh my gosh.
And I see Travis and Jesse.
Hey,
Hi.
Brie, I got to watch your episode. It was so good.
Yeah, it turned out super cute.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
God,
And
I
I
wish
love the little
I did
update at the
it.
end.
Yeah. The little flipper is here joining the call too.
Oh.
Oh, cute. Cute. Did you guys get the text reminder of the call?
Yes,
Yeah,
I did.
I got it.
Okay. For some reason, I didn't get it, so I'm glad you all got it.
I didn't get it either.
Yeah, maybe something's up with like some of the people. I don't know. I usually get them, and I got one for something else, so I don't know. Strange. I'm just gonna let everybody join in before we really get started. I like to give people a few minutes. We have an exciting event coming up for those of you who are in Seattle or those that want to travel to Seattle to see Leka and I and James in person. So Leka has this really awesome house that she's been flipping in Ballard. And we are going to do a live walkthrough of the house. And James is going to interview Leka, I think, right? Chat with you about the house. And so we're going to do kind of a real estate at work / Project RE cool live walkthrough. So I'm really excited. That's going to be the 19th. If you haven't registered yet, you still can. You can go to Meetup. Just if you search just real estate at work, you will find that event. Or I think there's a link in Leka's bio as well on her Instagram.
Yeah.
And I could probably drop it in the chat. That would be even better than all of those things.
That's true. That's true.
That would be a better way to get you guys there.
That'll be a better way.
Yes. So I'll find that for you guys.
That's fast though. Like I think we're already at about 75 people, so we don't have too many spots.
I know we don't have that much space left. It's kind of crazy because I mean it is a house, so you do have to limit. Not like when we are in Leka's beautiful event space in Seattle. If you don't know, Leka owns this awesome event space, so we have events there sometimes, which is great for that kind of thing.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yay, coming from the Bay Area to the walkthrough. That's exciting. Well, we're excited.
Oh my God, really? That's crazy.
Fantastic. Yes. Well,
Yay. Krishna, you have to come see us and like actually come talk to me and say that you are who you are.
yes, you got to come say hi.
Leka.
Krishna, how are you?
Good. I met you at the book party
At the book
launch.
launch, yes.
Yeah. So it'll be fun.
You are in for a treat because I wish it wasn't so, but this house had so many learnings. I could literally write a book about that. It's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
Whole book on one house.
Yeah. It's not.
It's beautiful though. So
Yeah,
Definitely looking forward to that.
I'm going to drop the link here in the chat so that those who have not registered can do that if you're going to be in Seattle. Okay, I'm going to kind of get started here. So we have Leka here. We're so lucky to have her come and chat with us. She, for those of you who don't know, Leka is a great friend of James, but she's also an incredible flipper in Seattle. She's flipped, I think, over 100 homes.
yes.
And she is a staple on Bigger Pockets. I'm sure you've seen her there. She has just done all these incredible things for this community and has been hosting real estate at work for like 8 years. And she's also an incredible bird investor. So multifaceted. And we're lucky to have her today talking about picking the right project. So a lot of us, maybe we can manage a rehab really well. Maybe we can design beautifully. Maybe we can figure out all the financing. But if you pick the wrong thing, it is not going to work out in the end for you. So this is an important thing to figure out because we all get projects thrown at us, I'm sure, all the time through the MLS, through brokers, through wholesalers. So we are going to chat with Leka about what her process looks like so we can be as successful at choosing our projects as she is. So thank you for coming, Leka.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. And you guys are so lucky because back when I first started, there was no one teaching us how to pick the right project. And so we just picked the project. And I wish we had this back in the day. So you guys are lucky. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So thanks to James for putting this together. This is incredible.
Yes, we are very lucky to have this information at our fingertips and so we can learn from others' experiences.
Yeah.
And, not have to go through some of those pain points ourselves.
Right.
Okay, so Leka, tell us how many, kind of give people a lay of the land of what you're doing right now so that they know what kind of projects are you doing right now? How many are you doing? Just so we can kind of get a sense of what your business looks like at the moment.
Yeah, I'm doing about 6 flips. One of them being a super large one, which is going on the market tomorrow. So that's done, thank God. But yes. Additionally, I'm also managing my event space. I have an Airbnb. I have some listings, some just joined a cool new brokerage today because I want to start selling luxury real estate. So there's quite a few things that I do. Um, and I'm really glad that the TV show's over because that gave me some time back. And now I'm about to finish my writing a book for Bigger Pockets. So I'm going to truly have some time freedom after this.
Woohoo! I know you've been super busy. You've had a lot going on. See, there's a question in here. Curious how you decided to get into the event space and the numbers on that. Do you want to touch on that real quick before we get into the flipping nitty-gritty?
Yes, so I was 1031ing one of my land projects into something, and in true fashion, when I need something, I go to James, and I went to James and I said, find me a deal to 1031 into. And he caught wind of this cool building in downtown Seattle, right in South Lake Union, and it's right next to Facebook. It's on the same street as Facebook, Apple, Amazon. And I was like, of course, I want this. I had no experience dealing with office before, but I was like, if I'm going to do anything with my 1031 funds, it's going to be something that I don't know much about so I can learn in the process. And so I ended up buying this building. It took me 2.5 years to like finish renovating it because we literally had to strip it down to the studs and then rebuild it. And so when we did that, we the topmost space, like the 4th floor, was the hardest one to rent because it's about 3,000 square feet. It has stunning views of the lake, but this is a walk-up building, so we don't have an elevator, and it's not ADA accessible. And so I started hosting my real estate at work meetups at this space. And then one of the city's largest catering companies came to one of the events and said, oh my gosh, this would be such a cool event space. So fast forward to today, we've hosted bar mitzvahs, weddings, proms. We've done a couple of book launches. And then of course I host real estate at work with Shannon, and we've done, I don't know, like 30 something events already just for real estate at work. So it's cool. It's a lot of learning, but it's kind of on autopilot now. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space. If you guys need to host anything, chat with Leka for sure. It's
sure.
stunning. Yeah, that view is amazing. Okay, so I'm excited to ask you questions today because I see you a lot, but I also don't feel like I can interrogate you with all of my questions. So this is exciting. I have all my things that I want to know. I'm sure you guys want to know too. So when you are thinking about what kind of flips you want to buy, how do you figure out your flip kind of price range? What are you comfortable in? What do you like right now as your flip price point? And how does a flipper determine that?
Okay, so it just depends on what cycle of investing you're in. If you are a brand new flipper, like I was telling Shannon that I would walk you guys through this, my criteria changed from year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 7, 7 to 11. So every few years, like it just changed. And it changes because the market changes, the way you buy deals changes, your own financial situations change, the cost of capital to borrow money changes. And so you just have to adapt to the times. And for me, when I first started, everyone around me said, if you could buy a deal with a $30,000 profit, that's the way to go. That's a big deal. That's like a lot of profit on a deal. And I was like, okay, so that's what I did. Like I had a whole buying criteria. In fact, I can pull up my email and show you guys back in 2015 what my criteria was. And quickly, obviously, that changed because I was like, 35K, that's nothing. Everything that can go wrong goes wrong in a flip. And so if you just limit yourself to that much, like you're bound to lose money. And so following that year, I didn't know better and I did 10 deals. And across those 10 deals, I probably made 100 grand in profit. Across 10 deals, that's like 20 escrows, 10 rehabs, a lot of capital raising, a lot of just, toil, and I only made 100 grand. And so I completely shifted the way I bought deals. And the next phase of my career, I started buying deals with at least a minimum 100K profit. And I say 100K, it doesn't matter the price point. Even if I'm buying a small deal, like say 400 grand, I have to hit at least 75 to 100 grand in profit. Otherwise, I just won't do it. Um, and then, and that's for the smaller deals. Today, the way that I buy deals is I say no to a bunch of deals that have 100K profit and cherry pick the ones that I think I could make like a 2 or 300K profit on. So as you go through your career of picking deals, it's super important to see what you're good at, like Shannon said. And then just, as you gain experience, there's going to be things you don't want to do. And so go get after that, because the minute you buy a deal and you have to do something that you don't want to do, you're going to get kind of cheesed off of the whole process. So I only do deals where I actually fall in love with the house. I can see the end result. I can see it be beautiful. And I pick locations where I know people are going to love to live there and they want to live there. And that's also important. So I hope that answers that, Shannon.
Yeah, I think so. And when you first started, and you kind of still are a little bit looking at how much profit. I know some flippers look at, I want to get this return.
Yeah.
So is that ever something that comes into play when you're analyzing, or are you just looking directly at the profit you might make?
Yeah, because for the most part, the way I structure my deals, it is infinite returns. I'm not putting any of my own capital in. And so if you don't have to put your own capital, then any money you make out of that is gravy. And it's not a cash on cash or anything like that. And so I just go for a number, like I go for like 150, 175 or 200K. And the other thing too is you can't just make that money, right? Like you have to put in the work for that. So most of my projects are full gut renovations that require seismic retrofitting, that require engineered trusses. The most recent one that I did, they didn't even have a driveway or a garage. So I had to do a curb cut, a driveway, and then built a garage. So it's a lot of work, but I'm walking into the deal with a 300K profit. So
Yeah,
you
amazing.
can do that if you actually maximize the renovation.
So the ones that you're cherry picking that you think you can make more on, is that just because they had a wider margin, or is there some evaluation of predicted growth in the future, or there's, oh, this area is getting a light rail or anything along those lines?
Yeah, it's all of that. But more than looking at the future potential, I'm always looking at the present, and seeing, okay, what is it like if I had to list this house today? What is around it today that is super special for a buyer? It could be the school district, it could be the street. I did a house once, it was just a super crappy house on a beautiful tree-lined street. All buyers wanted it. So, and then once I got sent from one of my favorite wholesalers a property, and I drove on that street, I looked at the property, and I called him and I said, I'm not even going inside. I am bailing on it. Can any of you tell me why I did that? What might the reason be for me to not even go inside a house, even though I was on the street and I said, I'm going to go buy a flip today? Any guesses? You can put in the chat.
I mean, I would imagine maybe near other houses that are falling apart, near like a junkyard, just something where like the proximity to some other kind of unappetizing people being around.
Yeah, there's a lot of dead people across the street. It was a cemetery. And so I was like, yeah, no, not doing it. And if I was a little bit smarter, I would have looked at it on a map. But that day I was just running around the city. And so I said, okay, I'm just gonna go. Vlad sent me this deal, so it must be nice. So yeah, and I passed on it. I'm gonna share my screen, Shannon. Can I do that?
Yeah. Let me know if you need
All right.
access to do that.
No, I think I'm,
There was a question about your Bigger Pockets book and what the topic is.
oh yeah, I'll come back to that.
Here, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make you the co-host so that maybe that'll be easier for you.
Okay, you'll see all of my gazillion tabs open, but that's okay. Actually, this is not what I want to share with you. Just bear with me.
I don't know if you guys remember this story about James buying a property and he couldn't figure out why it wasn't selling, and then he went there and it was like a gun range in the back. So yeah, some of those things around you can definitely make a difference.
Yeah. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this was on April 1st, 2015. And
Can you
this
zoom in a tiny bit? There you go. Perfect.
this was my buying criteria back then.
I love how it says crappy house.
Yeah, crappy houses, acquisition price under 300K. Like Shannon, I can't even rehab a house for 300K now.
I was gonna say that is quite a price in Seattle.
Houses that are two-thirds of the median price point. Anyway, single family homes prefer 2 to 5 beds, 1 to 4 baths. Like someone's drawing this up for me. I don't know. 1960s or newer, profit goal 15% cash on cash, must have at least 30K profit.
Okay.
I wasn't lying. 30K profit, that's it. That's all I wanted back in 2015.
Wow. That's so cool. So which one are there any things on this list that that's still a criteria for you?
Crappy houses in good, desirable neighborhoods. That's it.
Yep. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Do you want to share what your buy box is right now?
My buy box right now is anything that I can make at least a 200 to 250K profit on. So it doesn't matter what condition, it doesn't matter what part of the city, all that is secondary. As long as it passes my underwriting for making a pretty sizable profit, I'm in.
Do you have any no buy rules that even if it fits that criteria, you're like, no, I will not buy this type of thing?
Yeah, a million. No houses on busy streets. That means if there's a double yellow line, I'm out. No houses on cliffs or down in the valley because it just limits your buying pool. I just saw a house this week where you drive up to the house and in the front of the house is it's a weird house, but the front of the house is this big deck, and or sorry, the back of the house is really the front of the house, and so you drive up behind the house to go to the front. It was really weird. And so I'm like, how is this even going to figure? But definite no. So anything structurally crazy, I would say no. No basement dig downs. I prefer not to do dormers. I leave that to Raleigh, but I prefer not to do that. Short basements in general, it just scares me. And then if the house has space, I can convert it to anything. But if the house is small and we're missing like one key bedroom or one extra bathroom, then it's a pass for me. But good homes, good size lots, suburban neighborhoods, and it doesn't matter what the neighbors are doing, because a lot of times you can give your house good curb appeal, and you can also make a case for why, if those houses, your neighbors' houses, get fixed up, how that price of your house or the equity grows instantly.
And let me give you a would you rather. Which one would you prefer? So if you have two houses, same profit, and you're trying to pick out which one, and one of them's more appealing on the exterior, but is going to be difficult to get your spaces in, and one of them is the opposite. Which one would you pick? Better flow inside or better curb appeal outside?
Oh, okay, that's a toughie. Um, my gut says I would go with better curb appeal outside, because sometimes, I mean, the most beautiful houses, if they look ugly from the outside, and the buyers like not even make an appointment to come see it. And I know that every space inside is a challenge that I'm up for. So I don't shy away from, as long as there's space, I'll create something beautiful.
Yep. I would choose the same. I would
Good.
choose. Okay, tell us about the math that you do. So I know you have some little tips and tricks that you use for quick math to kind of decide, and then maybe let us have a peek into, okay, it's passed the first test, then what do you do?
Yes. Okay. So say we're looking at a house that is about, the ARV of our house is about 700K. So we're going to start with, wholesaler comes to you and says, hey, this house is going to be worth 700K once it's fully fixed up. So then I go from there and I go backwards, and I take out my phone, literally, and then open my calculator. 700,000. I know from years of doing this that my holding costs, which is my hard money loan, my taxes, insurance, and my selling costs, amount to around 15%. Now, if interest rates are phenomenally high, or I'm paying extra points, or I have a private lender that's crazy that I'm giving her like, I don't know, 10% interest, then it is going to change. But for the most part, on average, it's 15%. So then you subtract 700K by 15%, you come to a price point of 595,000. Now, say the house is going to cost 125K to renovate. So you subtract 125. Okay. Comes up to 470K. I will not buy this house for anything more than, say, 395. That's it. If I'm going to sell for 700, I'm going to put in 125K, then I'm not going to buy this house for anything over 395. Does that make sense?
Yep. So you start at your ARV and you kind of work backwards based on your holding costs, what you're going to have to put in, and then make sure you have a profit margin in for yourself.
Exactly. And it's different for different people based on, like for me, like I said, it has to yield at least a 75 to 80K profit. But if you guys are your own general contractor, or you're buying the deal with sizable down payment with cash, then your numbers will change. Or if you're the listing broker on this, then your selling costs will change. So all of those things do factor in. But for the most part, as a rule of thumb, that's what I do.
Okay, so that's kind of, and I've seen her do this. This is why I asked her to do it, because I've seen her just pull her phone out, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm just deciding, seeing if it's gonna work. It's like, what is this magical short calculation you're doing? Took her 2 seconds. So, what are the tools that you use kind of for the next steps in your process? Like, what are the websites you use or the platforms you use to kind of analyze your deals?
I'm a real estate broker, so I use the MLS, but I also use Redfin and Zillow sometimes, so just double check estimates and zestimates. Because some have better user interface than the MLS, so that's why I use it, and it's easier to use. But I also built a deal analyzer 10 years ago or 11 years ago, and I still to this day I use that because it's just been an incredible tool for me. And again, it changes with the changing tides, but for the most part, it's spot on every single time. And I can walk you guys through that.
That would be great. Yeah.
Okay. So does anyone have a deal that they want to analyze really quick? Like a live, real life deal?
Wish I did. Guys, you got anything?
Anybody? Like, come on. Are you guys
I mean, I
not?
have one, but it's already under contract and I'm definitely doing it. So I'm like a little like, if the numbers don't look good for you, I'm gonna be like, shoot, well, I'm doing it.
It's fine. You know, everybody has different, but it's more for your own sake, like to say, okay, does this work? But it's okay. I have a deal, like I always have a deal. So this house, I am gonna probably sell for 1.7. So
Can you zoom in a little bit?
sure. Can you guys tell me if you can see this okay?
Yep. That's
Yeah, we
good.
can see it now.
Okay, so basically my analyzer has different buckets. Like James has his own, I have my own, I'm sure Shannon has her own. So we each have what works for us. And it has some of the basics, which is your after repair value, what you are buying the property for, and then what your rehab is. This is the financing bucket. If I have a private lender, it goes in here. If I have a hard money lender, and if I have points, whatever it is, it goes in here. Then on this side, we have our holding costs. So these holding costs do not include financing. They're just taxes, insurance, utilities. Then we have a buying bucket where all the costs that go into buying this house as a flip. And then we have the selling, which is all the costs that go into selling this house once it's been flipped. And then here are your deal analysis. So if you input all of this, it basically spits out a bunch of metrics to then give you your profit.
Wow. That's really cool. It does look different than the one that James uses that we see a lot. So it's cool to see how you kind of like separated your buckets.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so like everybody has something different. Like not many people include staging on there and on their deal analyzer, but I like to because I like to stage every house. So it definitely goes in there. But okay, so let's look at this house. I just bought this house, so the numbers are fresh in my mind. My ARV, my after repair value is 1.7 million. My rehab is 225. My purchase price was $1,082,000. I'm just gonna put there that I will hold this for 8 months. It may be sooner, but I don't want to bank on that. I did get 85% of the loan for 1.1 million at 1% and 1 point, sorry, and 10% interest. On this side, I would probably change my property taxes. I would actually leave it because right now it's distressed and the city is gonna charge me about $6,000. Utility costs, I would say that would be about 4,000. Title and escrow about 1,500. Recording fees 1,500. $2,000. Okay. And then for selling costs, my title and escrow, I would say is 1%. Realtor fees, I'm going to be listing this house myself, but I still would just like to put it in there just in case. At 5.5%. Excise taxes in our city, as you know, they're kind of expensive. So I believe they're 1.25, but anything over $1 million is taxed differently. So I just put 1.5%. And then, like I said, my staging costs $8,000. So what does this all shake out to? A profit of 147,000. Pretty good deal, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you left the commissions in there just because if you decide you want to have someone else listed, if you're too busy or whatever, then you have that cushion in there just in case.
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Leka on this while we're still looking at it that you want to ask? This is so helpful to see how you put these all in here.
When you came up with the utility costs, is that just based on experience, what you think 8 months would cost you?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just doing so many deals. Like, could it be 6 grand? Yes, maybe. Could it be 3 grand? Maybe. It just depends on how efficient you are personally with, or not you, but maybe your contractors are with running the project. Sometimes contractors just leave things on, sometimes they don't. So,
Okay.
and then it also depends from city to city. Some cities, if you explicitly tell them that you're renovating a property and the property is vacant, then they charge you differently than if it's being occupied and still vacant. So, yeah.
Makes sense. Looks like we have a question, Mariana.
Do you have any specific buffer percentages that you incorporate when you're doing deal analysis? So I've heard, like, let's say about 10% on rehab for a buffer, and then I've heard of like an overall deal buffer of like, I don't know, 2 to 5%. Some people go even as high as 10%. Do you have any like specific percentages to things included in there?
Yes, absolutely. In my rehab costs, I always have like a 15% contingency. And even when I share my scope with the hard money lender, I make sure to put in like a sizable contingency just in case I go over budget, which I do a lot. And so if you know yourself, then cushion yourself.
Okay.
So you give your hard money lender, let's say your contractor says this is $100,000 job. So you might give your hard money lender 110,000 budget so that you have some space in there if things go over. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, Nicole, you have a question?
2 questions. One follow up on that one. Do you then take that 15% contingency and just apply it to each kind of line item so that you're just submitting kind of a slightly different budget to your hard money lender? Or do they typically accept you just adding a contingency 15% on the bottom line?
They just accept it
They
because
do.
there's so
Okay.
many things that just come up. And so I just say contingency, taking from the contingency fund. So I'll say I'm taking 8 grand from contingency. And then there's another line item from the lender that says, okay, what are you using that 8 grand towards? So then I can say, oh, we bought extra light fixtures and appliances or higher range appliances, or like I spent that on landscaping, bought all new sod, like whatever it is that's not on the scope. But it has to be legitimately like you're actually using those funds to rehab properties, not going to Vegas for the weekend. So
I mean, we might be for VP Con, but
yes,
um
you guys have to come see me.
so my question was around home warranty. Do you have certain situations in which you do budget for home warranty and others where you don't? Like, do you have a criteria for when you budget for that? Because I've definitely never seen that on a calculator before, and I was like, oh, that's a good point.
I don't.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
weird, because typically, like the selling broker is the one that actually gives the buyer home
Right.
warranty. So
That's what I thought.
plus, like I'm rebuilding this house to the very best of my ability, and I don't want people to need home warranty. But if something unforeseen happens, then their broker is the one that gives them that warranty.
Thank you.
Alicia?
Just a question, where are you finding most of your deals? You said you do use the MLS, but like in this case, are you usually using wholesalers or kind of
This
everything?
case was extremely unusual because this house was brought to me by someone in our network that said, hey, I've attended your walkthroughs before. I love what you do. I love how much you give back to the community. And I just wanted to know if you know someone that wants to buy this house It's in Redmond. And I was like, I live in Redmond and I could buy a house there. So what do you have? And then so she showed me this house and I was just like, yeah, I'll buy it. And so we put together an awesome offer and they loved it and we loved it. This house appraised for 1.7 and we were buying it for 1.1 million. So
Wow,
snazzy. Yeah.
pretty good. So I see you put in your repair costs. I know a lot of people right now are trying to figure out how you get that number. How do you come up with this number? And I know that's from experience on your end, but when you were first starting, how did you come up with it? And then at this point, do you have shortcuts if you haven't like walked through and gone line item to line item to figure out all the different scope of work?
Yes, so I'll give you guys my trick on how I did this when I first started. So my first house I bought sight unseen from a wholesaler that told me that the rehab budget was 65 grand. And they also said that they were going to give me their project manager and contractor once I closed on the house to work on my house. So then we closed on the house, and then magically the project manager and contractor got super busy with this wholesaler's projects that they just didn't have time to help me. Also magically, the rehab budget went from 65 grand to 125 grand. So I was obviously in a bind. And so I ended up walking 14 different contractors through that first project. And it was, I think, life-changing in a way because each contractor had a different method of approaching this house and this deal. Some just had, like ridiculously high bids. I think we went all the way up to 175, and this is 11 years ago. And some had ridiculously low bids. And so I had to pick like a happy medium. But in going through this exercise with so many contractors, I started collecting their scopes and their bids. Not once did I actually put that scope together. So a contractor would come and I would in detail walk them through the house and say, this is all the stuff that I need. And then they would go back and say, okay, we'll send you a bid. I started collecting bids. And lo and behold, I had this one contractor's bid. He was so thorough and he was so good. And his scope was incredible. Like it covered everything that I ever wanted. And so that kind of became my Bible going forward on how I scoped out my future jobs. Now, every contractor obviously has a different price attached to a single item. Like there were times when I would buy a deal from James and he's like, what? You're paying 200 grand to fix up that house? Like, let's sit down and go through your scope. And we would spend 4 hours, no joke, in his office going through line item by line item, including bathtubs, including door handles. And he's like, why is this so expensive? Why are you doing this here? Like, why did you open up this wall? So we literally would go through this scope, line item by line item, because he was just like, if I can get this done for 165, like there's no reason why you should be spending 200. And so with a lot of experience, now I can walk into a house and then say, I think I'm going to spend 175 on this house. And it comes to me easily. Also, I work with the same contractor now for about 7 years, and that has helped us both understand how I want a house to look, because it's really important for your contractor to know what the end product should look like for them to bid your house out. Because they can come in there and be like, yeah, I can do this for 50 grand. But you're not going to accept that because you have a higher threshold for better quality and whatnot. So it's super important for your contractor to know what you want at the end of this, and for you to know what your contractor can deliver. Yeah.
Thank you, Leka.
Oh, I was going to answer my
Yeah.
bigger book question.
Yeah.
All right. So my book, I don't know the name, honestly, but I think it's going to be, no, I'm not going to say it. I don't know what the name is, but it's all about stacking profit and optimizing your portfolio. So if you have an existing portfolio, how do you optimize to get the maximum return? if you don't have an existing portfolio, how do you build up to that? So it's optimization, it's creative exit strategies, it's a lot of process and just a lot of information. I think I kind of geeked out on this a little bit. So it's a lot of processes, information, permits for subdivision, the different things involved, permits for dad who builds and flips, and it's a lot of everything, laced in with my own real life experiences. Yeah.
That's exciting. It's gonna be fun. Another book release.
And there's a special chapter in there that was written by Shannon and Christian, which I am so excited to bring to the public because they did such an amazing job with it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. It'll be fun. I'm excited to read the rest of it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know you're a broker. Not everyone is. I don't know if you always have been since you started flipping, but for those that either aren't experienced at calculating ARV, what do you kind of lean on your agent who's helping you with the deal? Do you lean on them and you check yourself? And do you have any, like, how many comps do you want to have to feel comfortable in buying a project? If it's got limited comps, does that make you walk away?
Yes. So I didn't get my broker's license for the first 4 years that I was an investor, and that was on purpose. I just wanted to focus on learning to invest in real estate, not learn to sell real estate. And I didn't want myself to get confused with the two. Then I got my broker's license. And even now, if I buy a really good deal from a wholesaler that is also a listing broker, then I give the list back to that wholesaler because I just think there's so much power in that because you can then hold that wholesaler accountable on future deals. If I don't have a list back, then I do sell my properties myself. And with regards to comping the property, I always send out my deal to a few different brokers that I know and I love, including investors and wholesalers. And I'm like, comp this for me. And if you have a sizable network, your network can be of so much use because they will comp it. Like if I'm going to buy something in Shannon's neighborhood, I would send it to her and just say, can you comp this for me? Because she's going to look at it from a different lens than I would. Same with the flips that I'm doing right now. Like I'm doing one which is a condo conversion. So I bought 3 single family homes. And then I condoized them and I'm selling them off separately. There's nothing like it. There's no comps for this because I think I'm the first one to do it in that area. And so I just have to go with my gut, look at like a bigger location for comps and see if I should compare that to condos, single families. So in that case, I will get the opinion of the wholesaler that sold it to me, but also my listing broker that's going to list the property. Also a lender, like a lender would have great insights on how they would underwrite the deal if they had to finance it. So use all your resources. Hey, what is condoize? Okay. So yeah, it's like subdividing the lot, but you don't have to go through the full subdivision process. It's more assigning a tax parcel to a certain amount of the lot. And so there is a process that you have to go through. And Seattle is notorious for condos right now because of all the zoning changes. Like California, Seattle has a severe lack of housing. And so it's important for the city to increase housing. And that's why they do this. So this was like a duplex and a single family that I bought. And it's now a single family. And then the duplex is divided into 2. So it's 2 single families. So it's 3 homes side by side. You can also do this with apartment buildings. Like I have a 4-plex and they're townhome style. So they're like stack one next to the other. And I could easily sell them off separately. It's 4 separate.
Do you have to do when you convert a building like, sorry, this is not related to this, but I'm just interested. Do you have to do extra construction if you were going to convert like an up down things that are connected? I wonder if there's like extra?
No, not really.
Okay. I was just wondering if you need to put in like a sprinkler, like I don't know, when those things come into play.
Yeah, I think it's very jurisdiction focused. Like,
Yeah.
just don't know which city wants what. But if they're like side by side, this the wall between the two units is called a party wall. And so there's like some things that you have to do in the condo docs to call out that party wall.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about the HOA process? It's a big process, like setting up the HOA. But because this is getting more and more popular, there's a lot of attorneys that just focus on setting up HOA. And like we have two in our city, both of them have spoken at real estate work. And it's so incredibly easy because you just say, hey, I'm buying the single family, I'm building a dadu in the back. Can you create the HOA and then do everything that's needed? And they go through the whole process of getting the survey, getting your HOA docs, making sure the utilities are separated, or finding a way to do that. And then once you have the HOA, you have to assign a president, a treasurer, a secretary. Like they go through everything and say, okay, these are all the different people you need. And then for each person, these are the work items that you need to do. So it is a process, but there's people that can do it and do it easily.
Yep. It takes about 3 months or so, give or take on how fast your surveyor is, because they have to make a map, so they slow down those guys. Okay, so if we're in the process of getting a deal ready, we kind of talked about like how are you going to figure out what your budget is for construction? How are you going to figure out just looking at the deal as a whole or ARV? We've kind of talked about all those pieces. How much info do you like to have before you pull the trigger and actually make an offer? Because real estate moves really fast. So when something comes along, like, do you have to walk it yourself? Do you have to have an inspection? Do you have to have gone through with your contractor and walked it? Like, where are you right now in your comfort level in buying things, and how much info do you need?
I still walk it myself. I don't take anyone else's word for it because there are things that I walk in and I just know that there's something off. So I still walk it myself. I do not need an inspection. I do not need my contractor to walk it with me. And yeah, there's certain things that I look for in a house which like no one else can look for me. So, and then having bought a couple deals sight unseen, I can tell you that I would never do that again.
Okay, why?
Just because, like what a wholesaler tells you, like even if it's a trusted wholesaler, they have a different bar and I have a different bar. And so sometimes it's like it could be the rehab cost, sometimes it could be views, sometimes it could be the lot layout. So I just like to see it for myself.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm too much of a scaredy cat to buy something without ever seeing it.
I mean, it also depends. Like if I'm getting a ridiculous deal on something and I know that the deal is insane, then I'm all guns blazing. Like, yeah, let's go do this. Like I did buy a house sight unseen, which ended up being one of my favorite deals ever. It was a Heat and Dinner deal. And the wholesaler sent it to me at 9 p.m. And he said that he had 3 investors meeting him at 9 a.m. the next day. And so he said, if you can walk it tonight, then it's yours. And if you want it, it's yours. Now, this was a 530 square foot home on an 8,000 square foot lot. And they were selling it for $275, and this was in Renton. So I knew that it was just a killer deal. And so I wasn't able to walk it, but I sent my contractor. When my contractor got to the house, the toilet was overflowing with poop. There was one toilet and it was so nasty. He's
Still
like,
works with you. You're like, go in there and look at this. There's poop
yeah.
everywhere.
And he's like, if you ever want to buy this or if you ever end up buying this, do not walk this till I've stripped it to the studs. And I was like, I like that plan. So I ended up calling, it was John Whitney from Heaton Daynard, and I ended up calling him at 1 a.m. and saying I'm buying the house. So I have done crazy things like that, but not
Well,
often.
I'm actually glad you didn't walk that one yourself. So maybe
Oh.
that's a blessing in disguise that you didn't have to walk the poop overflow house.
I mean, I bought some crazy deals. Like another one that I bought had a dead body in it for 9 years.
For
And
9 years?
yeah, and then the neighbors started really complaining. And so then when the police went to like investigate, they were like, yeah, there's a dead body. So they took the body out. And then the guy that was living there was I don't know, went like kind of crazy. And so they had to take him out in a stretcher. And then I bought this house. Again, it was just a nutty house, but the whole house was like literally tilted to one side. So my framer had to come in and put like, you know, when you have a flat tire and you have to,
Jacket.
yeah. So he literally brought this device and he put it in the framing, like between the studs, and he had to like lift the house up on one side and then reframe it and then take that device. It was crazy. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, there's a question in the chat. How much do you negotiate with this wholesaler? So if they say that it's 500 and you want to pay 400, would you push back and negotiate, or just you're too far apart and move on?
It really depends on who the wholesaler is. If the wholesaler that I know from experience is more experienced than me, like James, if I'm buying a house from James, I'm never going to negotiate with him. I've even paid James $100,000 in assignment fees on one deal. Not going to negotiate it because I know it's a damn good deal. And if it wasn't for him bringing me the deal, like he could bring it to anybody. So why is he bringing it to me? So if it's not James, 100% negotiate with every other wholesaler. Like, hey, I make a stink about something or the other because, you know, I can afford that. So it really honestly depends on who's bringing me the deal.
Yeah. And I mean, I sometimes I'll say no to wholesalers and then they'll say, well, what would you buy it at? And I think that's a door opening for you to just give them a number too at that point. So sometimes they will ask that if you say no, and then you kind of can have a conversation about that.
So you guys, remember I told you about the deal that I'm doing where it's 3 condos that we're selling separately, 3 single-family homes. I just saw Jisoo and Eric here. Are you guys around?
Hi, Leka. It's Eric. Jesus still at work, but I'm here.
Okay, so Eric and Jisoo are my private lenders on that deal. And I would love for you guys to pick their brain on how the whole experience has been at some point, because we got red tagged. There was like so much more framing and construction we had to do that we didn't know when we were first buying it. But it's turning out to be really nice. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, what you said from electrical was a little bit unexpected to start. We were unsure about the siding and the roof. Ended up changing those things. So excited to see how it turns out, though. We're close.
We're close, yes.
Well, that's exciting. I can't wait. When are you guys think you're going to be done with that one? What's your...
We should hopefully have one of the units ready in the next couple of weeks, 10 days to a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yay.
I know.
Spring exit, I love it. Oh, speaking of, so do you when you're thinking about picking projects, do you look at the time of year? Is this a consideration for you at all? Even if you, especially if you know, I'm going to be gone for this month or this time, December sucks. Like, are there things that you think about when you're picking deals about the timing?
Yes, 100%. I just did a house in Bothell last year, and I bought it in July, which means it was only going to be ready in October. And October is fine. It's a fine time to list because people are still, you know, doing their business. No one's thinking about the holidays yet. But this house, we were putting a brand new septic tank, and so the timing went over, and now we were in November. And so I was thinking, wow, like, should we just wait till January and list it, or should we just list it now? And my real estate broker at the time was like, you know, you just need the one buyer. Why don't we just list it and then see what happens? So we ended up listing it and we got crickets. No one came to even show the house. No one came to see it. The 2 or 3 people that walked the house said it was either too small or they had a different issue, like whatever it was. But we didn't get any offers and we didn't even barely get any showings. So then come December, I was like, I want to take this house off the market and bring it back on in January. So we did that. We took it off in December and we brought it back on in January. Within like the first 36 hours, we had 12 showings, and then we had 3 offers.
Wow.
And it was crazy because the same house sat for a month in November, and then come January, we had so many buyers back in the market. So timing is important. If you think you're going into that fall, like October, November timeframe, just push it over to the following year.
Okay, so extend your hold time a little bit longer just so you are hitting the market in that January, February timeline instead.
And anything between January and October, you can list as is.
And that might be different for different markets. This is, I mean, I assume December is pretty bad everywhere, but that might not be the case. So you kind of got to know your market. All right. What's the best flip you've ever done, and why do you think you picked that project? And what do you think was good about when you made that decision?
Okay, so the best flip I ever did, I didn't even think I was going to buy it, but it just so happened that I was meeting my wholesaler and someone that I was mentoring at a house that I was flipping. And my wholesaler had sold it to me. And so he said, hey, I want to come by and then take a look at the house and see how it's turning out. And so I was like, okay, let's do a walkthrough. So we were walking through the house that I was flipping. And then suddenly he said, oh, by the way, I have this other flip, which is down the street that I just got under contract. Do you want to go see it? And I was a bit hesitant because the person I was mentoring was with me and I kind of wanted to give him all my attention. And so I was like, maybe not today. But then the guy that I was mentoring was like, hey, can I come see the house if you want to go see it? So I was like, great. So the 2 of us went with my wholesaler. We went to look at this house. House turned out to be one of the most stunning houses, even unfixed. The lot was massive. The house itself was about 2,400 square foot split entry, which I could do in my sleep. But it had like 1,000 square foot detached office, which is great. Like it could be a bonus area, it could be an office, it could be whatever. Like there's so many possibilities. And so as I'm walking through it, the mentor that my mentee that I was mentoring was like, hey, can I invest in this deal with you? And so he brought in the entire down payment.
Wow.
Ended up buying the house, and it took us 4 months from start to finish to flip it. No permits, of course, but I do not advise that you do that. But and if you do that, make sure that your work is done to code, because then if you do get red tagged, the city is much more lenient if they see that everything was done to code and you are doing things by the book, rather than just jerry rigging everything. And so we ended up closing on it. Like we listed the house for $1,050,000 and ended up selling for $1,250,000 and made a profit of $265K in 5 months.
Wow. That's really good. For a
And
deal you didn't even want to go, weren't even going to go check out. That's awesome.
And the kid that I was mentoring, he made 60 grand on that deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Clever.
It came to you. I love that.
Yeah. I love when other people make money on my deals. Like that's my favorite.
Yeah.
And I hope to make Eric and Jisoo a lot of money on that deal.
Woohoo. Okay. One last question, then I'm going to open it up.
Yes.
You said you change your buy box over time. How do you know when it's time to make an adjustment, or do you just do that every few years?
I would say it's really important that when you guys are doing a deal when you're completely done and you've closed on the property, the day you close, you just have to reflect. Reflect on what went right, what went wrong, what you could improve yourself, you, the individual, can improve on. What you could improve in technicalities like better hard money lending, better insurance cost, better contractor, better design, like whatever it is, like you have to reflect and say, okay, how can I improve my process moving forward? And that will automatically change the way you look at deals.
I love it. Like a deal journal.
Yeah, like a deal journal.
That's awesome. Okay, guys, I'm going to open it up. Anybody have questions about choosing the right project? Anybody working on trying to get their buy box set up? Or is there a part of the process between learning and getting a deal under contract that you guys have a question about? Oh, Nicole, raise your hand.
I have a question about, is there anything in terms of like your process that you found you do differently than James, or where you guys like delineate in terms of the ways that you pick deals, manage projects, sell them, like anywhere along the line?
Yeah, James is crazy and he'll do anything. I am a lot more pickier because I don't have the extensive contractor network or the knowledge to do what James does. I would say I'm pretty good, but he's extraordinary. So I don't like, I wouldn't go and build like buy a townhome site, for example, and he would do that. So I think it just depends on your own comfort level. Um, and then in terms of picking deals, like for James, he's a super what's the word? He is extremely tight with his underwriting. Like he's not as flexible or optimistic as I am. He's a pessimist. And so all his deals, like he makes sure like his ARVs are not high, his, and he buys them right. I am a little bit different because I also don't have employees. I don't have like a whole team that I have to pay for. And so I can afford to buy it for a little bit more because I don't have all that overhead. And so I guess that way it's just a little bit different that I can be more flexible with the way I'm buying my deals, whereas he's a little bit more stringent. Yeah. Right. Who's next?
Sierra.
Hey, okay, so you said that you have a contractor that you've been working with for like 7 years now, and I know that James likes to kind of trade out his contractors every once in a while, like doesn't like to keep using the same person over and over again. Do you also follow that process, or have you just kind of been going back to the same person over and over again?
So when I first started flipping homes, I had a really good contractor, and James said he's going to last 2 years and then you'll be done with him. And it was true. Like he lasted 2 years. And then I was like, I cannot stand to do another project with him because he is just so over the top. But now, and after that, I just got really lucky. I ended up meeting a contracting team. They were super green. They were subcontractors to a different contractor that I used to work with. So they would do all of his framing and like stuff like that. They didn't even have their own contractor license. But I had a house that I bought which burned down before I even bought it. Whole other story. But I went from having a contractor to fix up a cosmetic home to becoming the general contractor and fixing up almost a new construction. Like it had to be almost a new construction. We were stripping everything down to the studs. And so because of that, I ended up interviewing a bunch of contractors, and then I ended up finding this contractor through my subcontractor, through my electrician. My electrician was like, I said, hey, who do you work with that you like? So this is a really good tip. Talk to your subcontractors about what contractors they like working with. And those contractors often tend to be the best because electricians and plumbers are queens. Like they always want to work with the best people because their time is money. And if they like a contractor, that means that contractor work, that contractor is paying them on time and is good to work with. And so that's how I found this contractor, and I've used him for 8 years. We've done almost 60 plus renovations because if I have a listing, whatnot, like he still helps me with those. So he's been incredible. Knock on wood.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah. So it depends on the contractor, I guess.
All right, James.
Let's see here. Well, great session today, Leka. I'm going to carry forward with Kiara's same question about one contractor and such like that. And it's, how do you, I guess maybe because you've been doing it a while, how do you know, good prices? Like, are you really counting? And also, how do you know the good prices as far as what is a good, offer? I imagine in part your contract relationship, you've been working together, but what happens if you didn't get a good offer from your long-term contractor? How would you approach, evaluating your options?
Great question. There have been times when I got a bid from my long-term contractor and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like you charged me 150 grand to do the same house 5 months ago. And today that same house is costing me 185. Like you're crazy. And so I went with a different contractor, completely regretted my decision because that other contractor was cheaper but didn't deliver the same quality. But of course I wanted the same quality because that's what I'm used to. So I have learned that it's much easier to work with the same guys if you can negotiate them down a little bit. At the end of the day, I often feel like if you let your contractors win, then in turn you win big time. So if you know that they're charging you 10 grand extra on something, let them have it. Because the quality that they then deliver will be far superior than any no-name contractor you would hire.
Great, great. And one follow-up question, a short one. Timelines. Do you put any kind of incentives for if you finish early, you get so much a day, or if you finish late? Because I had a contractor redo an apartment in a three-family or three-decker, and the timeline just went out of control. By the end of it, we were both tired of seeing each other.
Yes, I have been through that process before. And before I would have like a contract that said, I'm going to charge you $100 per day if you go over this time. And I've charged some contractors even 14 grand because they went so far over their time. Now, once like the contractor that I work with right now, he's like family, and I don't charge him extra for going over because as long as you're going to the project every day and you can see that they're putting in the work, there's a lot of unforeseens, especially when you do pull permits. The city makes you do a whole bunch of things that you never accounted for. So as long as they're showing up to work, they're communicating, they are moving the needle, I'm okay. Even if it does take a little bit longer to fix up, sometimes you lose out on market timing or whatever, but that's just the name of the game. I'm okay with that. As long as I'm seeing good quality back. If you're not getting that and you're like moving into the November timeframe, then I would just say hurry them up, have those stringent rules. So it just depends, I think, project by project, contractor by contractor.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Mike,
I was going to say, we're going to go to Michael D. And then I think Michael O, if you have a question, you can also jump in there because he was trying to raise his hand too. And then we'll go to you, AJ.
yes.
Hi. Sorry, I'm moving lumber around. I've been cutting the lumber for the deck. So I have a question on design because I am not design friendly. Sorry, I'm out of breath. So if you can see, how do you flip
Let's
this thing?
spotlight you. Hold on. Let's spotlight you.
Hold on.
Okay, there we go.
So my wife, Tiana, and Vanessa both said this was ugly. And it's pretty tight. I think it's a 4x4. So I can't really move the room. I can't take room for anything else. So I had the idea of boxing this door up or walling it up, bringing the shower out farther to give you more room in the shower, taking half the vanity out, rotating it where the sink is pointing this way, and then having a door going this way, which is into the walk-in closet.
It's a little hazy for me to see, but I feel like that is
Oh shit.
that's a decent floor plan. Because you're not making the spaces feel smaller. You're actually expanding it to make it feel bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's the only thing I can come up with other than, that's why it's hazy. Yeah, it's the only thing I can come up with without completely redesigning the bathroom and blowing up my budget. Sorry, I forgot I got the filter on. I don't know how to remove it. Hold on. 1 second, I can actually download the plan, can I? Sorry, not tech friendly when it comes from anything outside of cars. Why don't you call on Michael O? I'll figure out how to upload the picture here.
All right, we'll go to Michael O. If you want to put the picture in the chat too, we can take a peek at it.
Thank you.
Michael O. We can't hear you, Michael, for some reason, but you're not muted, so. Man, internet just does not want you to ask your question. Do you have earbuds in or something? Sometimes it does that when you. We can't hear you. Okay. Why don't you try to type your question in the chat, and then
Yes.
I will ask, I will have Leka answer it.
Yes.
All right, I see Michael D's layout. Leka, do you see that in the chat?
Let's see. Yeah, so shower, closet, okay. And you're gonna make it,
Yeah, apologies for the bad drawing. So the lower one, at least on my screen, shows the floor plan as it is. The sink on the right side would be removed, and that's where the door would go into the walk-in closets. That way I can, there's a pocket door that's busted anyway, so I can wall that up, and then I can actually bring the shower out and then just rotate the left sink around and still have it in place.
I love it. And that way you're not moving the toilet at all.
Yeah, or the shower drain or anything. And then I was thinking about just doing a, with a rainfall shower that comes down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because I can't widen it anymore, but I can lengthen it. And that's pretty much all I can do with the space.
I would be careful with the rainfall shower in such a small space. Like I would just stick it on one side of the wall. But I'm gonna leave that to you to decide because I'm not in the space. I don't know how it feels. But typically,
Gotcha.
shower is nice if it's a nice large shower.
Yeah, I'm a husky guy and it's tight for me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, cool. Appreciate the input. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, AJ, thanks for being patient.
Yep. Hey, Leka. Hey, just had a question actually that was a bit similar to what was going on with contractors, but it's more specific to permits. We're working with the contractor right now for a project, and permits are taking a bit longer. It's like 2 months in and still kind of waiting on permits. I was curious about how long you typically wait for Seattle permits, and what's kind of the longest you've seen for basic or for your innovation projects.
What was the last part?
How long you typically see for your renovation timelines?
Renovation timeline?
Yeah, for the permits.
Okay. Permits are a pain, but it depends from city to city. Like in Seattle, I am working right now in Redmond, and Redmond is a 2-week turnaround for a simple interior renovation. But the city of Seattle could be, I don't know, like 8 weeks for an interior renovation. And then we have another city, Shoreline, which is so painful. They could be like 4 months for an interior renovation. Not just when you're pulling permits, you also have to account for electrical permits and plumbing permits. Electrical, if you are, God forbid, changing the service from one side of the wall to another side, and you have to get a new service, that's 20 weeks right now in Seattle. It's 10 to 20 weeks. It's crazy. So be really careful on how to budget for different things. My take on permits is if the city is in a spot where it's exposed to the city hall or inspectors driving up and down, definitely pull permits. The house that I'm doing with Eric and Jisoo, we didn't pull permits And my silly contractor that I love so much, he took all, like when he was fixing it up, because we don't have a lot of yard space, he took everything and he put it in the front of the house. And it's right, we are situated literally right next to the city hall. So of course, the inspectors are just driving around, and on their way to another project, they saw all this stuff outside my house and they were like, red tag. And so if you do get red tagged, it's going to cost you more to pay for permits than if you didn't get red tagged. It'll also be longer for timelines if you get red tagged versus not get red tagged. So it just depends. But I also like, I do 10 projects and get red tagged on one. And so is that one project worth the 10 that I didn't get red tagged on, that I was able to complete fast? So the answer is yes. And I think James is the same way. So I would say if your house is a little tucked away, you get away with it. But also I feel like buyers now are getting more savvy. They want to make sure like everything is buttoned up. So if it's just a simple renovation, my gut says to just go and pull the permit.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
All right, so Michael's questions in the chat, and then we'll go to you, Nicole. So Michael closed on his first flip, and he's getting contractor pricing. Their quotes aren't, which I've seen this too, their quotes aren't broken out very well. And so he's wondering, what do you give them? Because he gave them a sheet that said, these are the things I want done. What do you give them when you walk them through? Make sure they don't forget anything, but also not be too overwhelming for them. How do you get them to break?
Yeah. So Michael, that's another great question. I have now, I'm going away from getting super in-depth and detailed. I prefer to just say, hey, new windows, let's open up this wall in the kitchen. Let's update the kitchen, create a master suite, complete, like refinish the basement and out. Like the lesser information you can give them, the easier it is for them to give you a bid. And then you're suddenly minimizing the amount of work too. So, I'm a commercial flooring project manager and I'm used to detail. I just don't want change orders. Yeah. It's a fine line when you're flipping a house between giving them too much detail and avoiding change orders to just giving them the bare minimum and then saying like, you come up with the bid. So I would say trust your gut when you're walking your contractor through something. See if they are feeling overwhelmed or not. And then based on that, give them enough information. And if they keep probing and asking, then you can give them more information. But your first instance, just give them give them an overview of the project.
Michael says, thank you. Do you, when you're doing these bids, I know a lot of people have asked this too, when you're walking people through, do you give them a timeline? Like, I need this bid by blank day, or do you just kind of because some of them, they're not the best at, that's not their specialty, is all of that business side management stuff. So do you kind of give them a timeline, or how do you navigate that?
So what I do is I lure my contractor to my dining table. So we go walk the house and then I'm like, hey, do you want to just come sit in my house and we can do the bid together? And then he, poor sucker, will say yes. So then we quickly go over to my house and we sit on the dining table and we go through the bid right there because it's fresh in both our minds. In some cases, though, there are unforeseens and unknowns, like you have to open up the walls in order to know which side your trusses are going. Are they engineered trusses, or is that a load-bearing wall? So you would have to do all that. That only happens when you demo something. In my most recent project, there was a giant brick fireplace in the middle, and I didn't know if I wanted to demo it or what it would cost until my architect sent his guys to look inside the walls in the crawl space and see how the trusses were running. So there's so many factors that go into that. And after we did that, we drew up the floor plan. And now that I have a proper floor plan, I'm going to take my contractor back and then we'll figure out how best to scope it out.
Got it. There is a follow-up question from Nicole in the chat. Do you normally do your demo first and then get a bid? She has a project that requires layout changes and the contractors are mentioning it's hard to give a bid without knowing.
Well, be careful because if your city requires you to pull a permit and you are going to pull a permit, you can't demo the house and then pull a permit, because if an inspector sees it, then they'll still catch you. Even if you apply for permits, they'll red tag you for not pulling a permit for the demo. So don't just demo. They can always go up into the attic or in the crawl space and see how the floor is being laid out. So you don't have to always demo something.
It's a good tip. All right, Nicole, did you have another question?
Yeah, I had a question about, I know we asked your best flip, but what was your worst and why?
My worst was actually sadly not too long ago. It was my first out-of-state flip, and I did it out of state because my brother lives in North Carolina, and I wanted to give him, like he was so excited about flipping homes, and he wanted to do one himself. So I said, "Oh, I can show you how." And so we ended up buying a house together in North Carolina, in Raleigh, where he lives, and I was like, I can manage this from afar. So I flew out there with my contractor from Seattle, and we interviewed like 8 different contractors, picked the guy that could teach my brother. More than anything, he was one of the more expensive ones, but he was also a reliable contractor because he was doing his own projects. So we walked some of his projects, like we did all our groundwork. Then I left and I came back to Seattle, and my brother ran the project. And 3 months in, the contractor stopped showing up. He had charged us a bunch of money that we paid. And this happened one time. Then we hired a different contractor, and that one turned out to be fraudulent. We hired a third contractor, and at this point, we were way over budget and way over time. Not only that, after the first contractor stopped showing up to work, we went to the city and we were like, hey, he was supposed to pull all the permits. Can we have all the permit numbers? And the city was like, there's been no permits pulled for this project. And so that really bit us because we then had to go in and just finish all the work without pulling a permit. But then when we went to list the house, all the listing brokers that we found were not investor friendly. So they didn't know how to list a flip. And they were just like, oh, on the MLS, they said, this is an investor house. The investor has done all the work. No permits have been pulled. And so the house just sat on the market for 6 months. And it was a tragedy. And the silver lining in all of this was my brother turned out to be a rock star. And if it wasn't for him, we would have never finished this house. And the amount of work ethic that he showed, like he was a clone to me in his market. And so we realized that he would make an amazing investor. And he has a bright investing future ahead of him. But the net of it all is that I lost 150 grand. So things go to rot. Make sure you are shielding yourself by having different kinds of projects in different markets so that if one goes south, then the others kind of shield you from those losses.
Got it. Wow.
Does he still want to flip?
Oh yeah, I flipped like 10 homes after that.
No. Does your brother still want to flip?
In fact, he ended up building a brand new house for himself and his wife. And he loved the process. He was so educated and well equipped to do that because of the flip that he had done with me. So, yeah.
Yay, your twin. I love it.
Exactly.
Mariana, did you have another question?
She might have stepped away.
All right.
No, I'm right here. Sorry. It took me a minute to get back into the, I had you on audio. So I'm actually in that exact phase that you described in reference to when you first start, you do flips for a lower profit margin, and then you realize that you can't keep that up for an immense amount of reasons. So I'm on flip number 6, and I now know that I can't be doing flips for, 10 to 20K profit margins. But now that I'm going to look for flip number 7, I know now that I have to have wider profit margins, but I know the amount of work that it took to find the 6 houses. And all of the deals that I analyzed to find those 6 houses that had that profit margin, that to me, to think like the number of deals I'm going to have to analyze to find something that has an even bigger profit margin, it's just kind of daunting to me. So it was just more of any words of wisdom in that department. I just know what it takes to find something that pencils. And for me to think that now I have to make like double the profit margin or potentially even more just to be safe, it's just, I don't know, it just seems kind of impossible.
I think to me, it just means that you're not underwriting enough deals to go find those juicier projects. And the one way that you can underwrite more deals is by growing your network. So attend more networking events. If there are none where you live, create your own.
Okay.
I see more deals now than I did 10 years ago because I host a really big meetup. And so
Right.
people know me as one of the hosts of the meetup. And so when they have a deal, they bring it to me because of that reason. And I
Okay.
can say no to more deals today than I ever have before. So it's
Right.
all about keeping your pipeline wet and keeping
Okay.
it dripping with amazing deals.
Okay. So there's no such thing as too many connections.
No, not at all. Not at
Okay.
all.
So go out and find more.
Go out and find more.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
All right, Bree. And then this is going to be our last question today, so we can let Leka get on with her night.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm wondering if you design your own projects, like your flips, you pick all the finishes, and if you do, where do you draw inspiration from?
Yes, I pick everything out. So if you come into a project, like if you're walking my house next week and you don't like something, that was my idea. So I own it, but I think I'm pretty good at it. I love spending time on design. It's my one like creative outlet. I um I draw inspiration from what is around me, like the tiles that are around me. So I go and I spend a lot of time in the tile shops and the cabinet stores, and I go to different tile stores, like even the expensive tile stores, even if I can't afford it on a flip. I go there so I can get ideas on how I can recreate that with cheaper tile. But I take pride in making every single house so different, and I give all my bathrooms a lot of thought. Like in this new flip that I'm doing, I completely designed the powder room like I've never done it before. Like I used lime wash paint with a super cool drop pendant for light, a cool like freestanding vanity or like a sink. So there's design elements in this, which I mean, they just turned out so great. So I just like it. And so yeah, I do it.
A follow-up question, where are some of your favorite places to find these things, sourcing?
Yeah. By the way, my name is Leka Devatha. I think it's spelled wrong, but it's okay, you'll find me. Sourcing.
Sorry.
I love Floor and Decor. If you're in the greater Seattle area, there's 3 Floor and Decors. Love it. The best part about Floor and Decor is they have a killer like online store. So you don't have to go to the store. You can just find everything online and put it together that way. But I also go down to Sodo. There's so many different tile shops, Brodosians, Dal Tile, Contract Furnishing Mart. And then the bath stores like Pius, Belmont, and Bath and Cabinet. And then for quartz, there's Pentol. There's just so many options. It's kind of scary.
All right, I'm just checking out the chat. I think there's a couple more questions in here. They want to know if you have spec sheets that you share.
I don't have spec sheets only because the spec changes on every house, depending on the style of home. Like, is it a mid-century modern? Is it a modern? Is it contemporary? Is it traditional? So I think my specs just change. So I sadly don't have like, I know James does them in volume, and so he can have a spec book for different kinds of homes. Every house of mine is different. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that would have worked in Like the finishes that I put in Ballard definitely won't work in the houses I'm doing with Jisoo and Eric. So it's a little different.
Totally. Yep. All unique. Alex wanted to know, have you ever used Floor and Decor's design service?
I have not, because I like designing it myself. So I have not. But I do get inspiration from their inspiration photos on the website. And that's a good spot to go look at. Sherwin-Williams has a great inspiration web page too, where you can actually upload the photo of a house and then you can play with different colors to see what it all lays out like. So I use that a lot, like a lot, to see what the finished house would look like if I painted it a certain color.
Well, thank you, Leka. We appreciate you coming on here. You're a wealth of knowledge. Thank you for being so open and always sharing your journey and what you're doing right now. I'm sure I could speak for everyone when I say that we've all learned a ton and you're incredible. So thank you for coming on.
Guys, always love to come talk to Project RE. So love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of James's big bubble, because he is my absolute favorite when it comes to all things flipping. And you guys are so lucky to have him. And thanks, Shannon.
Of course. Yes. See everybody in Seattle at the walkthrough on the 19th. Hopefully you guys can come.
All right.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.